The galaxy has always belonged in mankind's eyes to mankind, even in its darkest hours, even when chaos rages or tyranids descend. Humanity clings to the conviction that it is the inheritor of the stars, chosen to endure where others falter. Yet the Necrons rise with a different truth, a truth not spoken but etched in every world they reclaim. The galaxy was never humanity's. It was theirs and always has been. Humanity was merely a trespasser living in their shadow. Each tomb world that awakens does not rise in chaos or haste. The Necrons emerge with purpose, their armies not advancing at random but following patterns inscrutable to mortal minds. At first, Imperial tacticians mistake it for opportunism, assuming the Xenos strike where defenses are weakest. But as the awakening spread, a shape begins to form. Worlds separated by light years are reclaimed in synchrony, their cities reshaped into identical geometries, their skies veined with the same emerald light. The galaxy itself begins to resemble a circuit, vast and deliberate, each world a node in a network of alien design. Those who survive close enough to witness the transformation speak of structures older than stone rising from beneath the surface. Black monoliths that hum with a resonance felt more in the marrow than in the ear, their glyphs shifting with an order beyond translation. Some towers reach into orbit, linking sky to soil as if to bind the planet into the circuit. Others bury themselves deep underground, veins of green fire running across continents as though awakening arteries long dormant. It is not conquest, not mere domination. It is restoration. To the Necrons, these worlds are not prizes won, but organs of a body once whole, now being reforged piece by piece. Rumors spread in the Mechanicus that the Necrons do not merely reclaim land, but memory itself. Data corrupted by their weapons is not random but precise, erasing Imperial records while leaving fragments of alien script in its place. Explorator fleets that dare to retrieve lost knowledge find their cogitators overwritten, filled with patterns of glyphs repeating endlessly. Some whisper that the Necrons are not simply warriors but archivists, harvesting history, stitching together an empire that predates mankind's first fire. To admit such a thing is heresy. To deny it, some argue, is blindness. Legends carried in fragmentary texts, half-burned and long denied, speak of the war in heaven, an age when the Necrontyr, bitter and frail, struck a bargain with starborn gods and became deathless in exchange for their souls. They waged war against the old ones, reshaping the galaxy in fire and silence. That war ended, so myth claims, in exile and slumber, their tombs buried until time itself would rouse them. To most of the Imperium, these are parables too ancient to matter, too vague to threaten. But now, with every tomb that opens, the parables sharpen into prophecy. The war in heaven is not myth. It is memory, and memory does not fade for those who cannot die. For the Necrons there is no rush. They do not hunger as tyranids do, nor revel in slaughter as orcs. They advance with the patience of eternity. To them, decades are moments, centuries are brief pauses. Humanity fights with urgency, burning itself in desperate defense, but the Necrons do not share this haste. They reclaim with precision, with inevitability, knowing that every world taken is not merely victory, but restoration of a design older than the stars men chart. Among Imperial scholars, forbidden discussions begin to stir. If the Necrons are not waging war but rebuilding a network, then what happens when that network is complete? Will it awaken something greater, some machine or consciousness that slumbers across the galaxy itself? Or is the network already awake, its will unfolding through its armies like a mind through limbs? Such questions are silenced by decree, their speakers executed, their writings burned. Yet the questions remain, because the pattern continues to spread, too vast and deliberate to be ignored. For the common soldier, none of this matters. They see only enemies that do not die, Machines that rise again no matter how many times they are broken. But for those who glimpse the wider truth, despair takes on a sharper edge. This is not invasion. It is inevitability, the weight of history pressing forward, the long memory of stone unfolding itself across the stars. If the Imperium thrives on faith and steel, the Adeptus Mechanicus lives on memory. Its magi cling to every scrap of ancient knowledge, every fragment of the dark age of technology, every relic of the Omnissiah's supposed will. Yet even their greatest vaults pale before the truths the Necrons embody. The Necrontyr were old when humanity still dreamed of fire. Their empire stretched across the stars before Terra knew iron. The Mechanicus fears this most of all, not that the Necrons will destroy them, but that they will render their entire creed meaningless. It begins with fragments. During the fall of Lithis, a forge world devoured in silence, one lone Skitarii patrol manages to transmit corrupted data before vanishing. The recovered cogitator files contain no records of battle, no images of enemies, only glyphs, columns of emerald script repeating endlessly. Tech priests pore over it in hidden vaults, and some begin to see patterns. Energy equations buried within the glyphs suggest functions beyond weaponry, as if entire worlds were being linked into a lattice of power. These whispers spread, despite all attempts to suppress them. In another sector, explorator fleets discover obelisks adrift in the void, their surfaces marked with the same glyphs. When probed, the obelisks respond not with attack but with resonance, a pulse of energy that synchronizes with the stars themselves. Worlds nearby report strange astronomical phenomena, constellations subtly shifting, nebulae glowing with green veins, gravitational tides altering as though the heavens themselves were being bent into new alignments. To most Imperial savants, such reports are dismissed as warp-tainted visions or errors in instrumentation. But to those who know the glyphs, it is evidence. The Necrons are not merely conquering worlds, they are reshaping the galaxy itself into a living circuit. Here, rumor hardens into fear. Some magi insist that if the Necrons are rebuilding their ancient network, then the galaxy is not merely battlefield, but machine. They speak of stars as conduits, of worlds as nodes, of entire sectors forming the limbs of a body that has slumbered since the war in heaven. Others argue that this is impossible, that no design could encompass so vast a structure. Yet even in their denial they confess ignorance, and ignorance to the Mechanicus is heresy. For the Inquisition, the implications are equally dire. Inquisitors, long obsessed with chaos or heresy, now find themselves confronted by a truth that does not whisper or tempt, but simply endures. How can mankind hope to resist an empire that does not fight for belief or sustenance, but for restoration? The Ordos Xenos send kill teams to capture fragments of Necron technology, but these missions end in silence. Either the operatives vanish or the devices themselves turn to dust the moment they are tampered with, as if the very act of intrusion were anticipated. Reports of such failures are buried, classified at the highest levels, but the whispers still slip through, carried on the lips of broken survivors. In monasteries and cathedrals, priests attempt to frame the silence as a trial of faith. They preach that the Necrons are merely another darkness for the Emperor's light to banish, yet even they cannot ignore the strangeness. Unlike chaos, the Necrons do not corrupt. Unlike orcs, they do not multiply unchecked. Unlike tyrannids, they do not consume. They only reclaim. Their conquest is not hunger, not frenzy, not madness. It is memory. And memory cannot be killed with fire. There are darker whispers still, ones that even Inquisitors hesitate to pursue. What if the Necrons' reclamation is not only about the physical galaxy? Some psychers, their minds burned by proximity to Necron circuits, claimed that they felt not emptiness but consciousness, a vast awareness stretching across stars, watching with indifference. They describe it not as malevolent but inevitable, like gravity or time. To imagine the galaxy itself awakening into such a mind is to imagine a future in which mankind is not destroyed, but rendered irrelevant, erased not by malice but by the quiet patience of stone. Such ideas are crushed whenever they surface. Yet suppression is not denial, and denial cannot change the steady rhythm of tomb worlds awakening, one by one until the galaxy begins to resemble not an empire, but a single being reclaiming its form. The Imperium is not built on truth. It is built on faith. Faith that the Emperor is eternal. Faith that humanity is chosen. Faith that every hardship, every war, every sacrifice is part of a destiny greater than any individual life. Against orcs, chaos, and tyranids, this faith has always been enough, even when blood flowed in oceans and whole worlds burned. For faith is strongest when there is noise, when enemies roar, when demons shriek, when fire consumes. Faith thrives in opposition, but faith falters in silence. The Necrons offer no blasphemy, no temptation, no heretical creed to seduce. They offer nothing but reclamation, as indifferent to prayer as they are to defiance. This indifference unsettles the ecclesiarchy more than any chaos cult. Priests find themselves preaching to congregations that listen with blank faces, their hymns swallowed by the quiet. For the first time in millennia, questions rise in whispers that cannot be answered. If the Emperor is the master of mankind, why does his light not pierce the silence? If he is the Lord of the stars, why do these ancient ones reclaim them unopposed? The ecclesiarchy responds as it always has, with fire. Preachers condemn the Necrons as soulless husks, mockeries of life, to be annihilated by the Emperor's chosen. Crusades are declared. Penitents whipped into zealotry, whole populations called to arms. Yet the campaigns falter. Pilgrimages vanish into empty voids. Holy wars end before they begin, and those who survive whisper that the Emperor's hand felt distant, that their prayers echoed unanswered. Faith survives, but it changes. It becomes harsher, more brittle, forged less in hope and more in denial. Some embrace heresies of desperation. In the hive depths of Gathas Prime, secret congregations pray not to the Emperor but to the silence itself. They whisper that perhaps it is not void but God, older and truer than any throne. They carve Necron glyphs into their flesh, not as worship but as surrender, believing that when the reclamation comes they will be spared. Inquisitors descend in fire, purging the heresy with bolt and flame, but the truth gnaws. For every cult destroyed, two more whisper in the dark, born from the same despair. Others take a different path. Some magi of the Adeptus Mechanicus, already shaken by the Necron's mastery, begin to question whether the Omnissiah and these deathless machines are one and the same. The machine god has never spoken with clarity, never shown its hand openly, but the Necrons embody perfection of machine over flesh, endurance beyond entropy. To a few they are the very image of the machine god. These whispers too are silenced. Tech priests who voice them are reduced to scrap alongside their data. Yet the possibility remains, corrosive and unbanishable. What if Mars has prayed to the Necrons all along? Even among the Inquisition, doubt spreads. The Ordos Xenos argue over the nature of the threat. Some claim the Necrons are merely another Xenos race, dangerous but finite, to be resisted as all others. Others insist they are something else entirely. Not race but legacy. The galaxy itself reawakening into its first form. Such arguments spill into violence, inquisitors condemning one another as heretics. Kill teams deployed against their own brethren. The more they argue, the clearer the silence becomes, because the Necrons do not argue. They advance. For the common man, the philosophical collapse matters little. What matters is survival, and even survival feels thinner with every passing year. When a planet falls to chaos, survivors cling to faith that reinforcements will come, that the Emperor's armies will descend to cleanse. When a world falls to orcs, there is always the promise that the green tide will eventually overextend, that other armies will burn them away. When a world falls to Necrons, there is only silence. No promise of rescue, no hope of reprieve, only the certainty that the reclamation is forever. And yet in rare places faith hardens rather than breaks. On distant shrine worlds, pilgrims still gather, chanting louder than silence, their voices breaking the air with stubborn devotion. They burn pyres that light the night sky, as though to defy the green glow with fire of their own. To them the silence is proof not of the Emperor's absence but of his test. If he does not answer, it is only because he demands endurance without reassurance. These worlds may fall as all others do, but they fall ablaze with conviction, their martyrs becoming whispers of defiance in a galaxy of inevitability. Thus, the Imperium divides, some clinging to faith with desperate fervor, some surrendering to despair, some twisting faith into new shapes heretical and dangerous. The silence does not only conquer planets, it conquers certainty, and once certainty is gone, even faith becomes fragile.